Hello, slots enthusiasts. How are you? My name is John Friedel. Welcome to Professor Slots, a channel devoted to mastering casino slots so you can win your way to success. Today, we're going to be diving into Mississippi's return to player, return statistics about player win percent, often also giving you information about the casino hold percent so that we can see how bad was 2020 really. So it's great to see you all here again for another Professor Slots podcast episode and live stream. If you're with us live, be sure to say hello and ask your slots related questions and share if you've ever gambled in a Mississippi casino. So I will check in later with the live stream to a little bit later to in the show. And special thanks to Paula for again being our moderator. Thank you, Paula. Thanks also to all the early arrivals, super fans that showed up before the start of the show and the friendly discussion we had. I was not as early as usual this time, so it was kind of their discussion and just getting things ready for today. Unfortunately, missed that. I always enjoy it. Oh, and we have our first donation. That was loud. First donation of the day from Chuck, and I will share that on the screen for people who can see that. And Chuck says, "Good morning to everybody." Thank you very much, Chuck, for your regular donation. That does help support the show and allow me to keep going. That and everything else. Thanks to the many new slots enthusiasts that are continuing to show up on my weekly live stream and download my podcast episode. This is both, and you are very welcome to be here. Before we start talking about today's topic on Mississippi return to player, to see how, see if they're cheating you, see if things are really as bad as in 2020 as we might expect. Mississippi has data, so we'll take a look at that. But beforehand, I wanted to make sure I say hello to all the campers, all the RVers that are out there. One of the things that, and I will share my screen here. Let's see here. Right, so I was interviewed by John Pedro, who has a show. He's a co-host on another show. This is that show. It's called The Camper Report. And he asked me to come into the show and be interviewed. It's something like a 50 minute presentation, but my part is maybe 10, 20 minutes towards the end. And I'll provide a link in the description below if you want to have that. It'll start right when I start talking. And the idea here is that there are plenty of campers, RVers who, might travel year round, or at least a large portion of the year, and they just travel from state to state and they need a place to park. There's Walmart, but there's also casino parking lots, and sometimes they even go into play. So he asked me to speak to his audience. He's about the same size as my channel, and explain a couple of options. I won't go over them with you because I've talked about tips and how to win. But when you're not going to be coming back anytime soon, the complimentary gifts don't matter as much. But on the other hand, every time you go to a new casino, it probably is a new players club, so you could potentially get free play every time, because every time you're signing up to a new one. And so we go over some of these things, and I won't spoil it anymore for you. The other thing I want to share was that my channel, thanks to you, my channel has gone over 10,000 subscribers. We crossed over 1,000 subscribers at the beginning of October last year. So it's been a very busy 4 or 5 months to get to 10,000. So a few more tabs, a few more things have opened up that you'll start to see on my YouTube channel that you might have expected before this, perhaps. The merchandise bar will show up on my I'm a Slots Enthusiast apparel, merchandise, cups, etc., pillows. And That will be available soon. It takes a few days for this to sort of, I have to be invited and it's shown up, but it's not set up, if that makes sense. So cross 10,000. Thanks so much to you. And yeah, so welcome to those people who are our viewers who are here for the first time. And, uh, we're succeeding somewhat on the slots channel, my educational slots channel with 10,000 subscribers. So that's great. Kevin, thank you. Appreciate the congratulations. Now the next, it's all important, but the next tier level, I'll use player club terminology. The next tier level on a YouTube channel looks to be 100,000 subscribers, which if I'm doing, it's accelerating every month, so it's hard to say when that might be, a year. And then I'll be a third the size of the biggest uh, slots channels out there. Might take a year. On the other hand, a couple of big videos, and it might happen a lot faster. That sort of thing does. So we shall watch. I'll watch the growth, and but at 100,000, I start getting invited to YouTube headquarters for, along with many others who cross the line to, help. They'll help me help them by doing better at videos, and that's the sort of thing. And they'll apparently send me a little plaque, a little gold plaque or something, gold star. Um, and I think people look forward to that. YouTubers, they spend years trying to get to that point. Anyway, 10K. So getting back to our topic. Oh, I guess not. Thank you, Magpie, for, and I'll share it as soon as it shows up. Yep. Thank you, Magpie11, for your $20 donation. I very much appreciate it. It's a super chat where you get to say what you would care to, and it is a text message basically. And he says, "Congrats on 10K," and so I'll stop sharing that and we'll get back to the first topic of the show, basically. But thank you for the congratulations. So every U.S. casino closed in 2020 due to the global pandemic. There is no doubt that these abrupt closures financially hurt the U.S. gaming industry. There's some reporting going on from the American Gaming Association about the first time income has dropped nationwide for casinos since 2007, and usually it's a heavy growth. So yeah, it's definitely, there's some statistics that are starting to come out from some of the AGA that's sharing how bad was 2020. But we can do that ourselves. This is the same resources they are using. They have Teams, but you've got me, but I got Mad's Excel spreadsheet skills. So I thought I'd start taking a look at some of the states. There's about 18 of them that have return statistics on that we can look at to just see how things are going. Most of them, I think all of them that I've chosen, have monthly rather than annual, and 6 of them have by slot machine denomination, and there's plenty of things to look at. Florida, for instance, I've already covered Florida, and we saw the periods where there was dips, but it was also a reduction in promotional dollars, not just a reduction in player win percent. They gave less free stuff away, and millions. So in per month, I think they were like lost 15 million total for all the casinos in the Miami area. So hey, got a question about sending a donation, where to do so. Is it because I'm on my phone? If you're able to comment, then you should see beneath the chat box a dollar sign, the little dollar icon, and but you have to be logged in. But if you're commenting, you're logged in, so you can click on that. Is there an easy way to show you that? I have to show my own live stream or something. Yep. Paula, I think, is on her phone, and she's able to sort of explain it a little better. I might be able to show you. Um, and, anytime you want to, if you're on the podcast, would be to go to professorslots.com/donate, and that'll take you to PayPal, where you can give a donation from your PayPal account, or you can go live and stop that. Right, so I will share my screen for those of you who are here, and this is the chat. A live chat, and there's a little button down here which I will press, and it gives you a choice between super sticker and super chat. Super chat's a little easier, I think, and then you're able to type in a message here, and then a slider down here will allow you to change the amount. I guess it goes up to 500. If you win a hand pay, feel free. You know, um, uh, we've seen a couple of 20s. And it shows at the top of the live chat, and it has a countdown. The first one just fell off because it lasts a certain amount of time. And right, so you can also type in a number here, and that'll change it. So then you click buy and send. If you have an account set up, it'll send it. I didn't want to talk about this time, but I didn't do it last time. It's not all about making money, and I don't want to make every live stream a commercial. Okay. So let's get back to our topic for today. And as I said, I'll come back to the live stream, ask your questions, and we'll come back to stuff. I expect lots of new people. Right. So you guys, slots enthusiasts connected to me, returned to newly reopened casinos, and they began to report tight slot machine gameplay, accepted for the most part as understandable. But how long did it last, and has it stopped? We can use publicly available gambling data from those states' gaming commissions, those states which offer a player win percent and other returns. For instance, this time, let's find out for Mississippi. Mississippi slot machine casino gambling consists of, just to give you an overview of what's going on in Mississippi in terms of the slots industry. They have 27 riverboat casinos and 3 American Indian tribal casinos. By law, Mississippi's riverboat casinos must be located on coastal waters, or the Mississippi River, or I'm always have trouble with this word, navigatable. Yes, success. Waters on counties bordering the Mississippi River. But after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, the Mississippi legislature allowed the state's Gulf Coast casinos to rebuild on land as long as it was within 800 feet of the shoreline. Thank you, Paula. The Mississippi Gaming Commission, which I'll just call MGC, is responsible for non-tribal commercial casinos. The gaming regulations used for MGC but also from state law, are around something called the Gaming Control Act. Now, the tribal casinos, they have their own gaming commission. It's the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians, and they have the Choctaw Gaming Commission. And they own and operate all 3 tribal casinos in Mississippi. They have gaming compacts. They have Class 3 machines, and to have that, they have to have gaming compacts. These are this authorized tribal gaming in Mississippi, and in it they have their own gaming commission. Thank you, Paula. Yes. The largest casino in Mississippi is Island View Casino Resort with 2,700 gaming machines. The second largest is Silver Star Casino at Pearl River. This is one of the tribal casinos with 2,500 gaming machines. But Mississippi's three tribal casinos, they're the property of Pearl River Casinos and Resorts, but they don't have return statistics. They don't have a theoretical payout. Some tribes do. Some tribes have this in their compact, but there are others who do not, and most others do not. And return statistics are also possible, but not in Mississippi. So all I will be talking about is Mississippi's commercial casinos, their return statistics. Now, when I did Florida, I couldn't do, again, tribal casinos, and that was most of them. but here in Mississippi, most of them are commercial. So we'll be able to take a look at, what's available, and I'll show you that to you in a moment. Now I'm going to switch on over to the live chat to briefly say hello. Looks like there's been goings on there. And I wanted to make sure I said good morning to everybody. Eddie is here. Jesse, I think you're new, right? And hey, Larry's here from the UK. Wonderful. Yes, I'm well. I hope you're well. Yes. Let's see. Magpie, I'm being quoted. One of my favorite quotes from his book, quote, "So reading and understanding the pay tables helps to prevent gameplay mistakes in general. So does being rested and not being intoxicated." Get a taste of my book. It's interesting when you sell a book, you sell the contents, and then you don't own them anymore, and then you can't use them. But since I self-published, I get to actually give myself permission to quote from my book, which I have done. No copyright strikes from YouTube there, thankfully. Let's see, we have some others. Michael's here. Steve's here from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Henry, Chuck. It's interesting, Chuck, to talk about the size of channels. One of the things that I've noticed is there's a bunch of slots channels, and I'm lumped in with the slots channels, which there's another one out there that talks about table games and rarely has a slots educational one. They have a very popular one from 2009, for instance. But these two channels are the only purely educational slots channels, and we're lumped in with those people who would like to sit down at a machine and record their play. If you take a step back, you will see that we're all lumped in together, which is fine. And if you look at the slots channels and you kind of find the biggest, and I've been looking into this more and more, how big do slots channels get? Because how big a YouTube channel gets, or even a podcast audience gets, depends on how many people are interested. If you have, lots of people drive a car, so there's interesting car videos out there. Everybody, can learn to woodwork, and but there could be lots of people who work on that. I'm alone with this other relatively quiet channel on educational slots. But if we look at it just as slots, how big do they get? And 300,000 subscribers. So I just crossed 10,000. And what is that? 1 out of 300, 1 out of 30. That's I'm growing fast given how many people maximize on YouTube. How big of an audience is there? But really, I can't go by those other numbers. My point here is that people are interested in being educated about slots. How big is the audience? I don't know if 10K is big or not. I want to go past 1 million subscribers, but nobody else has, on slots channels. So we shall see. We shall see what can be done. Shauna. Thank you, Shauna, for your $20 donation. That is very supportive. And she didn't say anything in the super chat, but we could all give her a moment of silence. That was enough. My jokes, I should write them out first. They sound okay in my head. Yes, Shauna, Shaunana, sorry. It did go through. We see it here. Thanks. Okay. Comments. I'm coming up to the interesting section here. There's my quote. Larry, hi, Jesse, Eddie, Michael, Steve, Henry, Chuck, Kevin. Thank you. Anne, new subscriber. Love your videos. Thank you. I'm trying to come out with more daily. and daily's hard. A little bit of why I'm kind of like multitasking this morning on all these things, not to mention going over 10K, but with practice, I'll get better at turning them out. If I can get one done per day, then maybe I'll go to two. It's part of how I'm going to be able to part of how I'm going to be successful with my YouTube channel, which is, this is not a side hobby for me. This is my main income. Once I was laid off 6 months ago, aerospace engineer. So, it's a bit of work to do. Right. I think I answered that question. And then there was things I don't see anymore because a person was kicked off. Sorry, but it's for cause. Yeah. Henry says, I will send my donation when I win with your technique. LOL. Sure. Was it 2 weeks ago? Somebody was telling me about their $2,000 jackpot and their $1,800 jackpot. And I had to just thank them for their $10 donation. It was appreciated. So yeah, if you give a donation, Henry, I'm not going to ask for 10% or even $20, whatever you care to donate. Right. So whatever that was distracting, I agree with Skinny Cricket. Thanks so much, Paula. Scott. Chuck says, I won with the technique and donated beforehand. I was learning, so I figured I had to pay for John's time and knowledge. Hey, it is appreciated, and all of your leadership examples are also appreciated. It also, if you, these live streams can get pretty busy, but if you want me to stop what I'm doing and answer your question, you can donate with a live chat and ask your question that way. And I'll try to remember that in the future so that you can be aware of that. And I think that kind of covers where we're at on the live chat. I'll come back to it in a few minutes. So Nahal, hey there as well, right back at you. Good day. Yeah, absolutely. It's gotten a little bit warmer, so I'm not freezing anymore, and the cats are more comfortable, and that's all good for the rest of us. So I'm going to get back to our topic here, since it looks like I'm caught up. Okay. The Mississippi. Let me share this next bit. Share the screen for you. That's where we were. But I have an article on every state. I work on one of these articles each week, and I include the territories and the federal district. So it takes about 13 months for me to get through all of them. I am on my 4th time through. This next one will be later on in this podcast. I believe it's going to be Kansas. And then that I'll be talking about as far as our state this time. But my next one that I'll write will be update will be for 2021 will be Kentucky, which has some interesting things going on with laws that came out fairly recently about cutting off their historic horse racing, but then it was debated, the machines that look like slot machines but aren't, and it looks like they may have overruled that somehow and I have to dig into it. It's interesting to see what happens over a year, 13 months. But in 2020, this would be published. I published this March 5th, 2020. So all casinos closed in April in Mississippi, and also the last part of March. So that had not happened yet. Thank you, Shawana. She wishes me the best on growth of the channel. Yeah, it's been amazing. I've been working on growing my business for years, and for 4 years, 5 years, and it wasn't until YouTube came along that I was just like, well, this might work. Right. So I have an article in Mississippi. I wrote it just before all the casinos closed, so it doesn't talk about the pandemic. But when I do Mississippi again in May, I think it's scheduled for, then it will have the update for the last year. And these have pretty much the same format. I do a bit of an introduction. I put in the video that I make, and I put in the podcast episode. This was podcast episode 84, starting around the 1 hour and 43-second mark for an hour-long podcast, episode 84, for those of you listening on the podcast. I usually do relevant legal statutes like what is the gambling age, and then a little bit of the history. I've lightened up on the history, but there's some important things like do they or do they not have remote casinos, and some are transitioning. And of course, a lot of them were just wiped out with Hurricane Katrina, or at least damaged heavily. I always have slot machine private ownership. What the rules are for that in each state. And then I have a link to the Gaming Control Board. And if I were to click on this link, you would be coming to here. But we'll talk about this in a moment. Mississippi slot machine casino gambling in whatever year is professorslots.com/MS. It's always professorslots.com/ and then the 2-letter postal designation. Here are the list of the casinos. Here's a casino map. And one of the things that I will point out here is that there's a northern region, which is basically a part of the state, even though there's nothing on the east side, casinos on the east side. There's a central region, which is sort of central. And then you have the coastal region. And right. And so that's used down by the Gulf. So that becomes important momentarily, because when we look at these three regions, central region, which includes Vicksburg and Natchez, which I'm pronouncing terribly, I know that much, northern region, which includes Tunica, Greenville, Lula, and coastal regions, which includes the cities of Biloxi, Gulfport, and Bay St. Louis. Now, or St. Louis, depending on how they pronounce it. It's up to them how they want to pronounce it, and I don't know, but I gave you both. This state, I mean, every state's got different gaming regulations. And in Mississippi, it's not by casino, it's by state region. So central, northern, coastal, and the casinos that are in these cities are that are the commercial casinos are included in that report, which I'll get to in a moment. Now, it's not evenly distributed. There are 9 casinos in the coastal region. 6 of them are in Biloxi. I think it's 2 in Bay St. Louis and 1 in Gulfport, or maybe I have that backwards. So there's 2 things that we want to talk about. The first one, just briefly mention, which is there are theoretical payout limits. Remember, states that have theoretical payouts don't have a number that everything is assigned to. They have a low end and sometimes an upper end. Right. The Hall has a question, which I will share. When the casinos close, do the slot machines turn off, or do they stay idle until reopening? Should I count the closed casino hours as idle machine hours? Okay, so you're talking about not the 2 months where they would, it was an interesting, we had a couple of live streams when everything started shutting down, and people were there just before they shut down for 2 months, or, month and a half, 6 weeks. And they were telling me some stuff then, but I don't think you're asking about that, because that's hypothetical at this point. All casinos aren't going to close unless we have something similar to 2020 happen. Even then, maybe they won't. So that was a unique event. You might be asking about every day they close for a couple hours to clean. Leave them on. Leave the slot machines on. It takes time to restart all the slot machines and check each one to make sure that they're back on. So it would be too hard for the casino to switch them off and turn them on again 2 hours later. Now, if you're closed for 6 weeks, that's a lot of electricity. And yes, you can shut them off and then you can get ready for reopening, over the course of a day or two. And certainly that would, be one way for them to save money. The thing you can't do is turn off the air conditioning, the HVAC, because then, in the South, particularly, or in the North, you get a lot more uh, humid air and some other things, and you can destroy a property. That happened with one of the casinos in Atlantic City. So yeah, when the casinos close, do the slot machines turn off? No. Do they stay idle? Yes. Uh, this is when they are closed for cleaning. Yeah, first one in after they reopen, right? Is I think the gist of your question. Let's see. And I will get back to the topic, and I think there's some other comments that I want to talk about, um, that I want to answer, but I'm going to get a little further into this. So, the theoretical payout return for commercial casinos in Mississippi is a lower limit of 80% and an upper limit of 100%. As we talked about last time, uh, the lower limit, I can't think of a circumstance in which they'd ever use it. It's the average is around 93% for the state of Nevada. 92.7, 93.3 for January 2021. I looked it up yesterday. And that's not 75%. That's not even close to 75%. So these lower limits don't matter, unless the most rarest of circumstances, it might matter. It's a legal protection that, business-wise, is not where you wanna go. And so there's really nothing much more harsh to casino profits than it was in 2020 when they closed for 6 weeks or a month or more. And if they weren't going to do it then they don't do it. So let's take a look at the data, and I don't know what to expect. I mean, I did Mississippi yesterday, today, and I have an idea what to expect. Before that, I wasn't trying to assume. I just want to take a look and see what there was to see. So let's take a look and see what there is to see. That's theoretical. But they also offer return statistics by region. Now, these machines that are included are slot machines, but also video poker machines and also video keno machines. So they don't separate those out. Those are all combined, but they do separate out by slot machine denomination. Not only do they separate out by slot machine denomination, they also say whether or not it's a progressive machine. So dollar slot machines and dollar progressive slot machines. And I'll show you those in a moment. That's not the direction that I went on this report. That's kind of another article, and we'll likely talk about those 6 states that have return statistics by slot machine denomination in separate articles and maybe even live streams. But if I go to the monthly report, I'd put a link in the professorslots.com/ms right here. Yeah, and you click on that and you will be taken to it. Taken to it. And we'll go there in a moment, but I wanted to mention that there's no theoretical payout limits in the gaming compacts for tribal casinos, nor are actual return statistics made publicly available. There is no doubt there are return statistics, but it's just shared with tribal leaders, between tribal leaders, and not even nowhere online that's available to the public. Okay, so this is the Mississippi Gaming Commission that I'm showing now. And you can see where the cities are. They don't put a border on the region. It's just Mississippi casinos and going by cities. And they don't even go by cities necessarily. They say Gulf Coast for Biloxi and Gulfport and Bay St. Louis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But there's another link that is here. There's a monthly revenue reports, and you can go, when you go there, you get the most recent month. And so this is a lot to see here. See if I can make that a little better for you. If you're on a iPhone, I am so sorry. I'll try to zoom in as much as possible. Those of you who are watching the live stream video, so that you can see some of the finer print. If you're on a big screen, then these are going to be, you probably don't need your glasses at this point if you use them. Right. So there's a bunch of stuff going on here. And there's some revenue things that's kind of interesting, but that's not where I went. I went to win percentage PDF. If you have a Microsoft Excel spreadsheets, then you can use this. That's handy when you want to start doing math to the data. But if I click on win percentage, that will give me the slot machine payout returns for January 2021. So this, I just clicked on it for January 2021. You have the central region. You have another page is the coastal region. And then the third page is the northern region. And this is the same on all of these. Now, the third page, the northern region, also has the overall for state. So that's so I'm going to go through this, and one of the things that you'll notice is I'm just using this overall for region number here across the bottom. Can I highlight that? Sort of, not exactly. And this is not. This is the win percent, but there's two win percents. One's the casino win percent, and one's the uh, player win percent. And Nevada kind of sets the example. Speaking of leadership, and the they like to put in the casino win percent. For whatever reason, that's the default. So if you subtract that from 100, then you will get the player win percent. Right? So you have to sort of do that. One thing I mentioned before we get to the data here is that the other link that I provided, the monthly archive, will show you, it goes back 20, 21 years. Each one of these will give you the monthly return, monthly report for each of these. So I'll go back to January 2019. And again, it's the same sort of report. Back then, perhaps not so much on sports wagering. And you can again do the win percentage here. And it's again all the same format. So drum roll. Let's try this. Right. So here is the casino hold percent. Here is the player win percent. And I noticed sometimes in the Florida return to player analysis that I did, that it's sometimes great to see what 2019 was to compare it to 2020. And also January 2021 is now available. And of course, not February, because February is not over yet. So these are the three regions. And then they have that overall state. So this is not by slot machine denomination. This is for the overall region. The line at the bottom of let's see. I don't have. I should have available for you this references. Yeah, so I will show you 2021. Where is it at? We've got a whole long list of these. Okay, so this is PDF version, one full page, and the first page for January 2020, Central Region, Coastal Region, and Northern Region. And there's a number down here. I'm not going to zoom in. 3,192 slot machines in January 2021 in the Central Region. 8,797 in the coastal region, and 4,270 slot machines in the northern region, and 16,259 for the whole state. So the northern region, right? Coastal region had twice as many as each of the other two regions, central and northern. Something to keep in mind that it's twice as big, twice as much going on in the coastal region. So let's see, turn this down. So I took all that data and I got the casino hold percent, and then I subtracted all this data, and there's the formula 1 minus. And so now all of this is the player win percent. And now And I might have to actually make this a little smaller to do what I want to do. All right, so this is Mississippi's regions. This is red as beginning of January, beginning of 2019, and through the return statistics for last month. And before this is January 2009. There's a line right there, and this is kind of the behavior of coastal, central, northern overall for the state. And then we had in March, the casinos closed, but not at the beginning of March, later in March. I think it might have been they were open for something like a week. And so they were able to get some data for player win percent, but it was pretty low. And the reason why it was so low was the casinos were about to close. They probably knew at that point, seeing what's all going on in other states. I don't think Mississippi casinos were the first to close, and they wanted money. So they reduced the player win percent to abysmal levels. I mean, I think I told you 2.5%, and then this is player win percent over on the side, 2.5%, which is about half of the screen, is worthy of a backflip. That's how excited you should get for 2.5%. All right. And I can't even do a backflip anymore. And we went, Mississippi went, what, 3 points. This top one here dropped 2.5 points. This one dropped 3 points in the course of a month for the short bit of time that they were open in March. So that would have felt terrible. 2.5%, you feel it. It's really obvious. And they did that for the first few. I would not have, it would have been terrible going the first part of March until they closed. But even when they opened back up, look where they are at compared to every other time they've ever been opened. The northern region actually did pretty well. They're almost what they normally would be, although they do have some dips. But then 2 months later in July, they dipped. We saw that sort of thing in Florida. But in May, they kept it lower than they'd ever been before, with the possible exception of the northern region back in, April 2019. And then it slowly has climbed. Now, what is this? From here to there is 1.5%. So it's not the worthy of a backflip 2.5%, but it is 1.5 is happy days. So this is what's going on here. It's a little hard to see if you haven't looked at a lot of these. So what I'm going to do is I am going to guide this on over. And this is the overall state before the pandemic, up and down, up and down, up and down, but it stayed within 91.5, better than that, almost 92, to occasionally sort of bumping up to 93, which is what we see on average in Las Vegas. And might be interesting to look in sometime where all this was good stuff was happening. Why was it August, and why was it November that were such good months, and see if that happens every year. And that's a strategy right there. But then look at this since they reopened. Just when you look at the overall, you get rid of all the noise and you see just a sweep up. And now for January, finally in January, we are back to better most of the time than we got in all of 2019. And isn't that interesting? So if you were worried, if you go to Mississippi casinos and you went in May or June, July, August, September, maybe not so bad in October, but then November was not good and December was, but then January was better. This is why. The data is right there. So I want to show you that. Now, a bit of this article is about, is it financially, have they financially caught up? I haven't finished all the analysis. You sort of see what data is available, and then you decide on what your analysis should be based on what's good data. This is not opinion. This is recorded, submitted data. And the whole point of this is to see if every state, what exactly they're doing. We noticed in Florida that they had a couple of months in late 2020 where it just dipped. And here we see that they just started dipped and then they slowly been increasing it. On the player win percentage, so this is kind of how much people are taking away. How are their income? What's their income like? Okay. Uh, so I went through and I got what's called coin in. So if you look at the so if you look at right, so you've got Northern here for January 2021. You have the different denominations, right? I said penny and also penny progressive, and just look at the difference between penny and penny progressive. There's 2,000 penny machines, but there's 1,000 penny progressive machines, so 3,000 altogether, and there's nearly over a 3-point difference. Remember, 2.5 is worthy of a backflip. So don't play penny progressives, play penny, and you can check the others too. But historically, penny machines are bad. But here you can tell the difference between penny and penny progressives. Same with nickel and nickel progressives, and the quarter machines are pretty good, and the nickels, the quarter machines are pretty good, and the non uh, Renee says my fiance, her fiance, not my fiance. I don't have a fiance. My fiance wants me to say thank you to you. We watched your video on 5 spins in high limit room. We used it and it so worked. And then there's like a thank you, your awesomeness. You're very welcome. I saw. I didn't realize how old this strategy was. It's been around for a while, and I want to do a video soon on, why casinos give out tastes and how we'll never cut into, you know, um, uh, interrupt that strategy. They will be very hard for them to give that up because it works on so many people, and that's why 1 in 4 casinos do it. Not every casino, but 1 in 4, and that's a lot. That's a lot. Yeah, the 5 spin method works at 1 in 4 casinos. Try it. It's also a very economic way to gamble. You don't need as much of a uh, bankroll. And in fact, I put out a video not too long ago about how to test for it. Depending on what machines you have to actually have something like 20 machines. So in the northern region, you might have 26 dime machines, and you want to, and then you could bet minimum 1 credit on the dime machines in the northern region, and if there is at least 20 in one casino, you can check that casino to see if it works, and you would only spend, what, $10? Uh, a lot of people head directly for the high limit room. I'm like, test first, please. $5, $10, testing phase. And so I put a video out on that, but I think we're all gamblers and people like to just go. But then the other column here is coin in. Coin in is how much players spent. And win-loss is how much it's just win. How much did people win? And if you divide these two, you get the win percent. And I don't really find much use in win per unit, win per slot machine. But if you just take the coin in and we take a look at that, we can, I will stop sharing that. We can see, this is all those numbers. You'll notice that here in March through May 2020, the numbers are down by half or more, half more or less, depends on what. Not every casino closed exactly the same time. Possibly, I don't know their actual close dates. I just know that they were open for part of March and they were open for part of May, but not much of March and not much of May, given these numbers. So you can see that a lot more clearly when you graph this sort of stuff. So yes, they were closed in April, but they were not open very long in March and May. And this is again from all of 2019 and all of 2020 and January 2021. So you get an idea from 2019 how much each is spending. This top bar is overall for the state, so I'm going to take that out. Although it's interesting to see the trends because they become a little more obvious. But now I just have the central and coastal and northern regions, and coastal, as I said, was bigger, more casinos, more revenue. Then you have northern, and then below that is central. You have very steady, we saw this in Florida as well, very steady income in 2019. But then it also, you know, not sure what happened in June, but by July, they were back to almost exactly the income that they had in 2019. But now something's happening in January where they are, there was once, like, again, something happened in March. Maybe there was a hurricane, something, or they opened after, for some reason, something happened in March 2019, which I haven't looked up historically. But now we're getting something that's almost similar in January. So they're making more money than they nearly ever have before, certainly more. I mean, look at the difference here. This is the difference between $541,000 in a month to 460. So that's $80,000. That little bump is $80,000. That's why I took out the statewide. And this is 1,100,000, and this is 1,200,000, and so that's 100,000 in the coastal region. They're making more in January than they are in December. Yet they have a better return. So they're making more money than they have in a while, nearly a year, and they're giving more of it away, percentage-wise. So that's what we know. That's what I know so far about Mississippi. I'll have a separate video on this before too long. And Chuck is a contrarian. He went with the super, not the super chat, but the super sticker. And there's a lot of hugging going on in that. As soon as it shows up here, I will share it on the screen. All right, so let's get out of the sharing mode with my Excel spreadsheet. But I'm putting together an article. I haven't published it yet with these results. Should be maybe later today. I'll also do a separate video, so you don't have to listen to an hour-long presentation. You can look at the 8-minute, whatever it ends up being, short presentation. Boom, boom, boom. I edit out my breathing, that sort of thing. Steve says, John, could you do video on VGT slot machines or explain how they differ from class 3 slots and how the red spins work? I will add it to my list. It's interesting. With daily videos, I've got it's like, I think I mentioned, I'm sort of like getting churning them out faster, and that is one I will write down on my list. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is my 8th note to myself on a topic, and that's in the last 6 hours. So every day I come up with a bunch of these, and then I decide VGT how-to video. The closest casino with VGT machines is South Bend, Indiana, and that's several hundred miles away, but I'll head on over that way soon. I got some local casinos I need to hit beforehand, and I will do that. Just a matter of time. Yes, I really, what I should do is like take a week and go to Oklahoma. Yes, let's see here. Is there another topic? I think I covered everything except the online course. The online course is something that I'm going to be offering. People have been asking when. Well, on the last live stream, I went over kind of how the launch is going to go. Launches are very important, and it's usually a couple of them. The first launch is going to be a soft opening. I'm trying to use slots terms, when a casino does a soft open, right? I'm going to do a soft opening. It should last about a week. I'll announce it here on the live stream, and then on a Saturday at noon, and then it'll close. Registration will close because it will still be available if you signed up, because it's going to be a 30-day course, self-led, so you can take every day and do it all in one day, binge it. Although there's going to be a couple of times when it's try this at the casino, try this at the casino, so it might actually take a couple of days. And I see some questions, and I'll get to those in a moment, but I wanted to mention the online course should come out late April, early May. And I'll let you know here, and I'll be open for 6 days. I'll go from Saturday until Friday midnight when I do announce it, and then it'll probably be closed. It won't be closed. It'll just be no longer being able to register. And then once I get all the feedback from those beta testers, including those that signed up a year ago, and then it's going to be offered at a discount for new beta testers. And that's an agreement that I accepted. And then I get all that feedback, whatever it is, and I integrate it make the whole thing better. And then I reopen it permanently a couple of weeks, a month later, once I get all that stuff in. And you'll still have access, if you're a beta tester, to the new updated material, the improved, edited, built-in suggestions material. And questions here. Eddie says, "Hi, Professor. I was wondering if you might be able to explain how the random number generator works." This is, I can talk about it now, but then there's questions I have to ask. Can it be manipulated by the casino? So how does it work? And can it be manipulated by the casino? I will start with the second question first, and we don't have a lot of time, and I need to make videos on all of this. I get asked this questions by maybe a small audience segment. The people who design games have opinions, and there's just a lot of bad information out there. The random number generator has one job, and it does that. And people assign so much more to it that's actually another aspect of it. And so the random number generator is legally protected. The machines are locked and guarded, and 2 people from the State Gaming Commission have to be there anytime it's accessed. It's all very formal. But it doesn't have a lot to do with as much as everybody seems to think. And so I will say the random number generator, it provides the randomness. It's one job. All right. But this is used, and I don't want to get into the long explanation because we don't have the time. This is used as part of an overall system. And this overall system is something that can be manipulated by the casino. So they are manipulating something other than the randomness, because and it's called a frequency distribution, if you want to look it up, from statistics. If you know statistics, the frequency distribution across all possible outcomes on a slot machine is adjusted by the casino, so that many more times it's 0 and fewer times it's the top jackpot. So that it's also, you might have heard of the terms weighted distribution. This is the main reason why I'm not got this video out yet. I have to use these terms that nobody understands unless they've had graduate level statistics. And also the graphics are kicking my butt. So I will leave it at that. The odds can be manipulated by the casino. They used to be hand done by slot mechanics open each door and entering a code from the slot machine manufacturer, and there's several of those that change the odds, not the randomness. And now they have central servers that can do it whenever there's no player's card or money in the machine, and it takes a few seconds. So that's a winning strategy, by the way. If you are a slot machine that is obviously not winning for you, you can take your money out and take your card out. You can go to another machine, or you can put your money back into the machine and the card back into the machine if you use one, and it could be reset. It might be worse, it might be the same, it might be better. You can do that. Do the count spins? Do I count spins between hits? No. I know that there's some people out there that are like, well, every eighth, every 18th, every 28th bet, and you can just count on it. And I'm like, I don't see. You just all you're saying is keep playing and just don't expect anything most of the time, except on this hit. And I'm like, I don't see the winning strategy there. Um, and Snow Woman says, "How about doing some live casino play?" That's what everybody else does, and there's plenty of places you can go for that. If I wanted to be an educational slots channel, I would walk around a casino and show you how to find winning slot machines. Actually playing them to prove it, isn't interesting. Okay, you found it. Show us how you found it. And showing you how to find it is not casinos. Casinos do not allow that. And the reason why they don't is because I have to get a signed release from any face that I show. And there's thousands of people in a casino. Casinos will let you record, some casinos with an agreement, some without an agreement will let you record your play on a slot machine, but they don't let you walk around and take video. And that's what's necessary to actually help you. So everybody else does records their play, edits out long losing streaks so that you think that they win a lot, and they pay for it with their gaming, their video income, ad revenue income from YouTube, and it's all part of the economics. And that's not what I'm offering, but I am different that way. Okay. Time is up by at least a minute and a half. And I will say, thanks for a great show. If you watch this video later, you'll see a playlist video I've created. Actually, you won't, not for the live streams. Those go away in less than a week. If you're listening on the podcast, stick around and we'll be moving into the next segments of the show. And as always, have fun, be safe, and make good choices. Thanks for all the questions. As usual, I'm not getting to them, but all of them. But appreciate your time, and take care.